Yo, club status got dollar lamb chops today. Come through about 7 o'clock. I'm gonna have them on the grill. Dollar lamb chops. We got $5 Hennessy, $5 Grey Goose, $5 mixed drink. We got Slice, the DJ. We doing karaoke. We got Frankie. She's gonna host.
You know, I can tell you that I did speak with a few people, but there were messages upon messages online pouring out of love and memories and thank yous of Michael Brown, who owns Sloppy Chops behind me. They're getting the message of his death rocking the community all throughout Detroit. Let's take a good look at him because he is beloved and missed by so many.
Imagine this. It's almost 4:30 in the morning in Detroit, Michigan. The city is quiet. The streets are mostly empty and the night is winding down. People are leaving bars, heading home, doing what people do after a long night out. And right there, outside a cocktail bar called Sweet 100 on Schaefer Highway, shots ring out. 3 people are hit. 2 of them survive. 1 of them doesn't. And the one who does make it home that night is a man that nearly everyone in Detroit knew. A man who had spent the last 2 decades pouring everything he had into his city, his community, and his people. A man who, by every account, had absolutely no business being on the wrong end of the gun. His name was Michael Brown, but Detroit knew him as Mike B. Before we get into everything, if this kind of story hits you the way it hits us, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Shadow Crime, and click that bell icon so you never miss when we drop a new case. Stories like Mike B's deserve to be heard, and your support is what keeps us telling them. Now let's get into it. Mike B was 52 years old when he was killed, but to understand why his death shook Detroit the way it did, you have to understand who this man actually was before that night. Because Mike B wasn't just a restaurant owner. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a culture. He was a movement. He was, in every real sense of the word, Detroit. He had been a part of the city's nightlife and entertainment scene for well over 20 years. Long before he ever opened a restaurant, he was in the mix, promoting events, building connections, and showing up for people in ways that most folks never even knew about. He was the kind of man who remembered your name, remembered your story, and showed up when it mattered. And then he built something real. In 2020, right in the middle of a pandemic that was shutting businesses down left and right, Mike B opened Sloppy Chops on West McNichols, just off the Lodge Freeway. Think about that for a second. While the world was falling apart, this man was building. Sloppy Chops was a steakhouse, and a high-end one at that. He was serving ribeyes, tomahawks, the kind of cuts that turn a regular dinner into an experience. But what really made people fall in love with Sloppy Chops wasn't the fancy cuts. It was the lamb chop specials. Detroit has a deep, deep love for lamb chops, and Mike B knew that. He tapped right into the heart of what his people wanted. And he delivered at a price that didn't make you feel like you had to choose between eating good and paying rent.
You know, I can tell you that I did speak with a few people, but there were messages upon messages online pouring out of love and memories and thank yous of Michael Brown, who owns Sloppy Chops behind me. They're getting the message of his death rocking the community all throughout Detroit. Let's take a good look at him because he is beloved and missed by so many. This is Michael Brown, also known as Mike B. That's what many people called him, both in his restaurants and outside the restaurants. He was known for Sloppy Chops and Sloppy Crab. Those were his establishments, his places, and many say that the food was good, but it was his heart. That's what stood out the most. Detroit police say 3 people were shot at 4:30 in the morning on Saturday on Pilgrim Street and Schaefer Highway. Mike B, again, as many people called him, died of his injuries. Messages, as I said, have been pouring in since it all happened, saying he was a great father, great husband, and overall mountain of a man.
Very well loved, respected. He was an asset to our community. He fed us good. He even went past food to do community service and to help community organizations and people. No one could be hungry around him, could be in need around him.
He stood up and supported the community, specifically around hunger. He always did things to make sure that people had food, that he would say that there's no young person that's going to be hungry. as long as I'm around. So he would do things. And then I remember either it was last year or the year before last that there was a tragic thing that happened at one of his restaurants, and he was just there 10 toes down for that person and that family and that community.
So many people posting, sharing memories just like you heard there. Now, police tell us that they are looking for the suspects, and they're asking anyone with tips and information to please reach out to them as soon as possible. Call 1-800-SPEAK-UP. It is all anonymous. Reporting live here in Detroit, Lauren Edwards, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, Lauren, do we know much about this investigation? We know that there were 3 people hurt and are shot, rather. Do we know if he was an intended target in all of this and why?
And that's a question we're all asking at this time. The investigation is very early in its stages. I reached out to DPD asking just for an update. And again, all they could tell me is that the investigation is ongoing. But again, if anyone knows anything, please let the police know.
Now, Sloppy Chops was just the beginning, because Mike B. wasn't the type to stop at one win. He kept going. He took that same energy, that same vision, and he launched Sloppy Crab over on East Jefferson Avenue near the Renaissance Center. And if you know Detroit, you know that area. You know what it means to plant your flag there. Sloppy Crab was a whole different vibe, part seafood spot, part sports bar, part nightlife destination. It was a kind of place where you could watch the game, eat well, and feel like you belonged. And that right, there was Mike B's signature. Every space he created made people feel like they belonged. Now here is something I really want you guys to sit with for a second. This man hosted weekly hip-hop showcases at his restaurants for over 2 decades. Over 20 years of showing up for Detroit's underground rap scene. Artists who had nothing, who were unknown, who were just trying to get their voices heard. Mike B gave him a stage. One artist, Jay Morris, said it best when he talked about how faithfully the hip-hop community showed up every week for Murder the Mike Nights. That was not just a night out. That was a lifeline for a lot of people trying to make it in this city. And it was not just artists, it was everybody. There's a story that has been circulating since his death that I think tells you everything you need to know about this man. Someone came forward and said that Mike B hosted their mother's memorial service for free. Not because he had to, not because there was anything in it for him, but because that was just who he was. He saw someone in pain, someone who needed help, and he stepped up without being asked. How many people do you know who would do that? How many people do you actually know who would open their doors, their space, their resources for a grieving family and ask for nothing in return? Pastor M.O. Hardwick, who knew Mike B personally, said something that has stayed with a lot of people in Detroit since the news broke. He said Mike B was very well loved, very well respected, and that he was an asset to community. He also said that no one around Mike B ever went hungry, not one person. If you were in his circle, if you were anywhere near him, he made sure you were taken care of. That was not a PR move. That was not something he did for clout. That was just the man he was. DJ Motor City put it this way, and I want you to really hear this. He said Mike B did not just create a restaurant. He built opportunity, community, and a gathering place where people from all walks of life could come together. He showed what leadership looks like in action, investing in his dreams, employing his people, and contributing to the culture and economy of Detroit.
Hungry around him. No one could be in want. Just had a very genuine gentleman personality. Just a real Detroiter.
And right now, that's how friends are remembering Detroit restaurant owner Michael Brown, better known as Mike B. He was killed in a triple shooting outside a West Side bar over the weekend. Now, as friends mourn, some community leaders are renewing calls for the city to crack down on after-hour spots.
The triple shooting happened around 4:30 a.m. Saturday outside Suite 100 near Finkel and Schaefer, and 2 other people survived. Detroit police are still looking for a suspect. Lauren Kostick joins us live. And Lauren, one person who knew him says Mike B was just the kind of guy who always made sure people were taken care of.
That's exactly right. It's clear how much he meant to this community. So many people are posting on social media, sharing memories and honoring his legacy. Also, at the same time, Detroit police here at the 2nd Precinct are trying to find the person or people responsible for this triple shooting. And community leaders are saying this shooting is also raising a lot of questions about bars after hours. A father and successful business owner shot and killed over the weekend in Detroit.
Detroit loves him. He was a real Detroiter who was about people, community, and about uplifting life.
Michael Brown, better known as Mike B., was shot Saturday morning around 4:30 outside Suite 100 near Finkel and Schaefer on the city's west side. 2 others were hurt but survived. As of Monday, no one has been arrested. Mike B. was a staple in Detroit's hospitality and entertainment scenes for decades, known for his restaurants including Sloppy Chops and Sloppy Crab. Messages and memories have been pouring in on social media, including this tribute from a local restaurant critic calling the news heartbreaking. But his legacy extended far beyond food and nightlife. He cared deeply for his community.
It was embedded in him, and you could feel it in his food, in his restaurant, and his demeanor when you approach him. Very approachable. Just loved the city of Detroit, loved his people.
Now, his death is sparking renewed calls for an ordinance on after-hour establishments, limiting how late businesses can operate in neighborhood areas. New Era Detroit posted this video over the weekend.
Enjoy yourself, have a good time with your people, and then go home. It's that simple. Go home.
And Pastor Mo agrees, saying it's time the city stepped in.
We're definitely probably going to see an ordinance come down. Okay. And we're going to make sure that from a community standpoint, we're going to make sure we have our foot on that too.
Again, so many people posting about Mike B tonight. We also spoke to his brother earlier today, but understandably, he is still trying to process all of this. We also reached out to DPD. All they could tell us is that this investigation remains ongoing and that there are no new updates. Of course, anyone with information is asked to call 1-800-SPEAK-UP. Live in Detroit, Lauren Kostick, Local 4.
A tremendous loss for the Detroit community. Okay, Lauren, we appreciate your report this evening.
So now that you know who Mike B. was, now that you understand what this man meant to Detroit, let's talk about what actually happened on the night of February 28th, 2026. Because this is where things get heavy. And honestly, this is where a lot of questions start piling up. It was a Saturday morning, just before 4:30 a.m. Mike B. was outside Suite 100, a cocktail bar on Schaefer Highway near Puritan Avenue. 2 other people were with him, and then someone opened fire. 2 of the victims were found right in front of the bar. 1 was found across the street. Mike B. did not survive. The other 2 victims were rushed to the hospital and thankfully pulled through. But Detroit lost one of its own that night, and the city has not been the same since. Now, here is what I need you guys to pay close attention to, because this is the part that keeps people up at night. Detroit police were called to the scene and launched an investigation. And as of right now, no arrests have been made. No suspect has been named. No description has even been released to the public. Nothing. The case is open. The streets are talking, but officially there is silence. Think about that. A man this known, this loved, this visible in his community, shot dead outside a bar at 4:30 in the morning, and nobody has been held accountable. Not yet. The Detroit Police Department is urging anyone with information to come forward and contact their homicide unit or call Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-SPEAK. UP. And I want to second that right now. If you're watching this and you know something, please make that call. Not for us, not for the views, but for Mike B. and for his family. Because let us not forget that behind the restaurants, behind the showcases, behind the community work, there was a family. There was a wife. There were children. There are people who woke up on February 28th and never got their husband, their father, their person back. And they deserve answers. Detroit deserves answers. Now I want to leave you with some questions. And I really want you to think about these because they go deeper than just this case. Why is it that the people who give the most are often the ones taken the quickest? Why does it seem like the ones building something real, the ones feeding their communities, the ones opening doors for others, end up being the most vulnerable? Was Mike B. targeted because of who he was, because of what he had built, or was this something else entirely? And if someone out there knows what happened that night outside Suite 100, what is stopping them from speaking up for a man who spent his entire life speaking up for everybody else? Those are the questions Detroit is sitting with right now. And honestly, so should we all. If this story moved you the way it moved us, please like this video. Drop a comment below telling us what you think happened that night. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure you're subscribed to Shadow Cry with the bell icon turned on so you never miss a case. We will keep telling these stories until every name gets the justice it deserves. Mike B. was one of one, and Detroit will not forget him.